Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Hot Seat. This Friday, the 13th of September, 2024. And with me in the studio is a panel of the most experienced journalists and pundits to discuss the major events of the week. I have from representing the human rights mujahideen of the world, Jimmy Odoki. Jimmy, you are welcome to the show. The oldest person on this show other than me, Timothy Kadiegera, an eccentric.
But you're old man of the club.
And right in front of me, Rogers Magara. Magala or Magara? Magala. You're Musoga?
I'm Muganda.
We never host Magana on this show. Have you ever had a Magana panelist?
Of course, and was in the others. But
I'm Muganda with roots in Bunyoro. I've been to Toro for some 5 years, so I can speak Runyoro, Rutoro, Uganda.
Empako yawe?
Empako yanga rali.
Wota rali?
Ndo kurunge yawe?
Yanga dieri.
Liota dieri.
Mishaka chimanyeke?
Turumu mpora.
Numali yake mlaka?
Ndona nituvidia.
Numutukizaki manyeke?
Nitubakizo ururu.
This is why I understand the talk. That typical story, no one has ever answered that. Even if a Toro can't answer it. Okay, you are hereby declared honorary Toro. So, gentlemen, we're discussing the major
29 years old.
Yes. But Timothy, I want you first to come because I watched this. First of all, I'm rooting for Trump. But in spite of my support for Trump, I was so disappointed in his performance in this debate. He allowed this woman to slam him so badly on issues where I felt she was so weak. She was just weak. But what happened to our man? I hope you're also supporting Trump.
well, regardless of whether it's support Trump or not, what happened to him is, remember that this debate with Kamala Harris, the vice president, becomes possible because of a previous debate with President Biden, which is essentially the reverse of what you're saying. The incumbent does very badly, disappoint so much more disappointing than Trump was right now. So in that sense, he was better than Biden because Biden really faltered, and Kamala Harris was, fairly good performance. But no surprise, if you know Trump is not really a disciplined, organized, methodical person in his thoughts and minds. So that's, in fact, the only positive for Trump might be he just did not blunder like Biden. Just to not be Biden now is the new measure of failure. So what did you expect? That's who Trump is.
But he has a capacity to bully, intimidate, disparage, and that's how he wins things. Mm-hmm. You remember the primary Republican debates of the 2016? And I felt that he allowed so much of her to override him. Even when she was speaking, he wouldn't interrupt. He looked disciplined, but also subdued.
Yes,
I think he underrated.
Of course, but some of the conditions, of course, for the debate was that discipline. The idea of microphones are off. You can't speak. In other words, the format of the debate was made with Donald Trump, the erratic man, in mind. So, from a certain point of view,
he would not be able to interrupt successfully.
The whole rudeness that you remember in those primaries of 2016. So the only thing was just for Trump not to insult her in a way or basically antagonize so many people. That's the being subdued, the being less than the usual militant Trump was, by his standards, okay, was not a total blunder.
Yes, and now he has announced that he will not accept another debate with her, which is another concession of defeat.
In a sense, yes, but then of course that takes us, I guess you'll be discussing later after these two, the question of do these things move very much. If you had a presidential debate in Uganda in 2021, just before the election, even if President Museveni gave what eloquent debate with all figures and slides about the economy, Pan-Africanism and everything, do you think the people power NUP are going to vote him? No. And then do you think even if Bobby Wine gave the best, most credible performance and facts and showed his presidential material, was he going to be voted in Kazo, Kiruhura? No. So what really matters is the question of the swing states. People have just made up their mind. It isn't these people now, it's the cultural battles they're fighting, of which you could switch a Kamala Harris to anyone else, J.D. Vance or whoever. It is those battles of culture, the immigration, white identity, abortion, gun control, funding the Ukraine war. That's what matters now. It's now a religion more than party.
In an election team, you have really three issues. You have people really who root for you, they support you. Normally in America, they use it. You are non-supporters, you consider them that your base. They become the kind of guys who will act as volunteers to knock on doors and all this. Mm-hmm. Then there's this other group. Those are the best of the other side. It doesn't matter what you say or do, you will not change them. Yes. And then there is this what they call swing voters, those who are undecided, whom we are trying to win. So the essence of a presidential debate is
to sway the undecided.
Yes, to sway the undecided
in the swing states, undecided individuals or the swing states.
The undecided largely in the swing states, because take the example of California. There are 56 seats. Electoral votes?
50, yes.
About 56.
50.
They already, they're in the bag of the Democrats. I don't even think Trump will go there to campaign. Then you have these redneck states like Wyoming, Idaho, North and South Dakota. Whom they will vote. They will vote Republican. So you don't go there. So they will, and in this election, they're saying the election will be decided by 6 states, swing states. In those, just even 5,000 or 10,000 votes are enough to tilt the state in your favor. So when you're in a presidential debate, it's not a wider election. It is a particular segment of the electorate in the swing states whom you can be able to sway. And in the base of the opponent, and this is what Trump did successfully in 2016, he was able to penetrate using social media those micro communities of the Democratic Party, spread disinformation in order to discourage them from showing up to vote. If you can confuse and convince a few of them to lose interest in voting, and I think that's what happened to Hillary. She couldn't understand how she was beaten. They went into black communities and other micro communities of the Democratic Party, claimed that she was dying, or if she was elected, she would be arrested. Those of you who may not show up to vote because they've been discouraged were enough to allow you to just cross over, because in about 4 states, he won by 76,000 votes, and that's how Trump became president. So, in other words, the debate matters a lot, because sometimes the margin of victory may be just 100,000 votes in 5 or 6 states.
Okay, true in that sense, but the election, the debate can only swing maybe a tenth of that 100,000. The final 3 weeks or 1 month.
That is already 10,000.
Yes.
In the state, it's good enough.
Yes, but now there's so much. First of all, in terms of Kamala Harris, these signs of the U.S. economy slowing down, job numbers always being less than expected, monthly job figures, if those continue that way until next month, September, this month and next month, and people are in that state of fear, that then can work against her. I don't know what Trump can do to swing anybody against him now, because everything about Trump, everything called Trump, erratic, scandal, irritating, irrelevant, impeached, everything about Trump has been factored in by anybody who is half alive today. There can't be any more statements, scandal, blunder that Trump can make that can shock anybody. I think short of undressing in public or anything, but Trump is crazy, erratic, he's all those things, and that's well known about him. So in other words...
Well, the other threat to Trump, guys, I'm going to bring you in because I want to question.
Yes.
I feel like the biggest threat to Trump is not taking away his voters, but his ability to rally his enemies to show up and vote. And I think that in 2020 election, his biggest weakness is that his ways mobilize so many of his opponents to show up and vote, so that although for the first time in the history of American presidential politics, in his second term, the man increased his votes by 13 million. Am I correct?
Yes.
From 61 million to 73 or 74 million. His opponents grew from 64 to 80 something, 85 or something. So I think that the vote was not for Biden, it was a protest vote against Trump, in which case he has an incredible capacity to rally his base, but an even more incredible capacity to rally his opponents, really to mobilize them against him. Even those who are not his opponents, to piss them off and say, we have to stop him. And, okay, let me come to you, Rogers. That's where I think his greatest vulnerability lies. It is his greatest strength, but his vulnerability that he is able to act in a manner that pieces of such a large segment of people to come up against him. I think in 2016 they underestimated him. In 2020 they could not give it a chance. And maybe he looked subdued in the interview in order to avoid annoying those constituencies, so that it does not come across as just too erratic.
Exactly.
But I also think that that night, Kamala had a very beautiful night in terms of debating, and Trump Tim was saying that there is nothing much to change. But for me, I believe that Kamala could have, let me say, the black community on her side, depending on how Trump was debated in regard to the race and how he demeaned the people, that the refugees from Haiti, eating the cats, eating the dogs. So
all over there, I should tell you, I have a video I saw on Instagram of a lady from Haiti. Have you guys seen it?
No.
Who is testifying that in their voodoo culture, they eat cats and sacrifice dogs, and that these migrant communities where she lives in Ohio are actually doing that for religious reasons. So that Trump, what he was saying, is not actually untrue.
Yeah, but though it wasn't verified. Yeah, though the basic of the debate that night, it wasn't verified information. So he couldn't use it to advance his prowess on the debate on the night.
Who does the verification?
The moderator. The moderator said these are just rumors; they aren't verified. So maybe he couldn't have used them tonight.
Why does he mean that rumors are not verified? According to what text? According to which gospel?
The reports that were being made by the media, most of them were just rumors. It's not verified information. The ones of eating cats and dogs by the refugees. I actually thought
Trump was just being outrageous, but then I saw a Haitian woman defending Trump, saying this is actually...
Yeah, but again, you cannot take her word at gospel truth. You get it? So maybe if something has been authenticated,
I think
that's when we should believe that
it might exist, but the magnitude, how many people are doing that?
So it's very hard to take it as the gospel truth. Yeah,
it shows that the man told the truth. Am I correct? But
it could be a truth, but not a fact.
Taliban, I'm sure you're rooting for. Jimmy, you're rooting for Kamala Harris. Am I correct? And her liberal imperialism.
Well, either I don't care so much who takes the day, but as they say that a day in politics is too long. It was apparent that Trump was going to win, but then when Kamala came, the equation changed.
Although I still think Trump will win, I feel the opinion polls in America have a lot of what I would call preference falsification. I'm sure many people interviewed do not want to appear to be against a woman who's also black. They may claim that they are supporting her, but when it comes to the polling booth, they may actually vote for Trump. Anyway,
I think the difference, you all say Kamala won, but they say that it was neck to neck. Even the polls say that it was close. Not.
Yeah. Yes. I think there was
and that margin of error, which is 2% to 3%, may be preference falsification by many white people who would vote for Trump but are afraid to tell pollsters.
Yes, and the reason why that's important is because, as I said, for Trump being the Trump that he is, if you're still talking about neck and neck and even within margin of error, then it really just means that in reality
he's 5% ahead.
Yes, in a certain sense. In other words, if the worst possible president, the most erratic, the most indisciplined, most scandalous, can still be neck and neck at this stage, then it's just telling you, as I said, every negative about Trump has been essentially factored in America, and the only thing left now between now and November is things like the economic data or one of these, some video. Kamala Harris, okay, yes, now looks like presidential material, but she's got some sort of, what can I say? She has that party girl image, some of those older photos,
there's so many videos of her. That's such a good dancer.
Yes, but I'm saying, but the image.
Anything I like about her, how much she laughs and how much.
Yes, but in other words, okay, let me put it just bluntly. She looks like almost like
a village woman.
Okay, not village woman, the kind of woman whom nice to have as a girlfriend, but if you brought your mother as wife material, they would say, well, you know what I'm talking about. And also, no, I'm saying, but you also know there's another factor which played against Hillary Clinton. That side of women that don't like each other. Women have that competition among themselves, and this common thing of we'd rather work under man than under woman. That little thing is going to be a factor against them.
Anyhow, it is interesting to see how Trump, if this woman were to win, to be defeated by a woman and one who is black is a double tragedy for Trump. But, Tim, Anyway, we have, I think, run out of time. Let's take another break. When we come back, we shall be going into other issues. Welcome back to this edition of the Hot Seat this Friday, featuring a panel of the most experienced journalists and panelists to discuss the major events of the week. I have Rogers Magala, I have Jimmy Odoki, and Timothy Kadiegere. Now we want to discuss. President Museveni has gone out, guys, and said, I want to begin with Jimmy. Museveni said NUP stole his votes. They stole 1 million votes from him. I want to state that actually, I not entirely, but largely agree with Museveni's accusation.
How? It's
okay, what is your own attitude towards it?
It's outrageous.
Tell me how.
Why now? There was after the election, he could have gone to court. Is it because he had won, so there was no need? There was no need, but why now? There must be a reason why he's talking now. Because he was talking about the electronic. When it doesn't work, you should stop voting. But why he brings it now is it's something that leaves most people wondering.
Maybe he has been chewing on it.
It's
okay, Rogers, do you think there's any chance that Museveni's votes could have been stolen?
Absolutely not.
Why?
I believe that in places where the president in the places where Museveni had a lot of support, it was well known that he would win. So you would have to look where would NUP steal Museveni's votes in Kampala, because Museveni didn't have the votes in Kampala.
Okay, there was 1.1 million registered voters in Kampala. Museveni got 126, which is less than 10%. 126,000, Bobi Wine got 384. Do you really think there are only 126,000 supporters of Museveni in Kampala here?
No, but Andrew, the other thing we have to know that the rigging of the votes is not on the actual day. Election is a process. Look at how the national IDs are given, how the...
So Museveni's people did not get the national IDs, because I'm saying Museveni getting 164,000 tells me that a lot of Museveni supporters didn't show up to vote if his votes were not stolen.
It could be true, but then you cannot ascertain it if he doesn't bring out the evidence, which votes, which places. Maybe the places he was...
So,
did he expect to win Kampala? Did he expect to win Wakiso?
Maybe in 2011, Museveni got 245,000 votes in Kampala, 2011. In 2016, he fell to 157. In 2021, he fell to 126,000. Besigye grew from 248,000, he beat Museveni by 3,000 votes in Kampala in 2011, to 34,000 in 2016, and then Bobi Wine went to 384. So Museveni claims that his votes here are being stolen.
Here we are.
And he says a figure of 1 million votes. That is 1 million.
Tim, what do you think?
The only trouble with Uganda today under Museveni's feudal system is that all of us fight with him with a hand tied behind. You can't say certain things because then the law's used against you.
Okay, but if I'm offering you 100% legal protection, say whatever you want.
I don't know.
You don't trust that you are given immunity today.
I used to think I have powers, but I also have limitations. But in other words, what I'm trying to say...
Where do you find my limitations?
Limitations, one, good point, that's a whole separate 1 hour discussion. One, your inability to rein in Hosea Kainerugaba. I know you and most people, including that household, do not want him to tweet what he does, but somehow he does it, and all of you are helpless.
Why do you think you know? Maybe we like the way he tweets. Because honestly, I find that the way he tweets, you guys, the elite, they may quarrel about it, like Trump. Moses' tweets are the ones that have made him.
The true, but
whenever he makes these normal tweets that are sober, people get bored. When he makes his outrageous tweets, there is conversation, they go viral, they shake the country. And in that sense, Mohozi has certain Trumpism in him, and people underestimate the power of those tweets. You may consider them...
Can be dangerous,
True, but remember, Mohozi is not some random social media influencer or, pop musician for whom outrageous behavior, jumping on tables like Bobi Wine gives you higher ticket sales. He's supposed to be, in theory, a successor to his father's president, so of him we expect sobriety, we expect,
What do you say, we is you and who?
We, I could start with his own immediate family, including his wife. I could start with his parents. I could start
Have
with
you talked to his parents and his wife?
Now, Andrew, please take it from me. Some of us are also
okay. Let me ask you.
We're also morals and CMI.
And Janet and others don't like this. But the point I want to make is, I honestly think, from my feel and by sampling of Ugandan opinion, I think that the Muhoozi who tweets what you guys consider outrageous tweets is much more attractive to an ordinary Ugandan than the sober Muhoozi who reads a speech. People find that boring. They want him when he's spontaneous and when he's out of the box. And the more he gets out of the box, I think the greater the mileage he gets. And this is in a space which is actually dominated largely by the educated. This is social media.
Andrew, do you remember when the president said that he refused army commanders from driving around? They need to be driven, because they need to use that time to think, to prepare, and to be sober. So do you think the president is happy, or he entertains what Muhoozi does with his Twitter account?
Attitude, first of all, let me even reveal to you, when we were at Muhoozi's birthday, for this birthday at State House, and President Kagame had come, both Kagame and Museveni did complain about Muhoozi's tweets. But that is their complaint, their individual opinion. What I'm discussing is the effect of Muhoozi's tweets on him as a political actor in Uganda and his presidential ambitions. I feel it has actually created a powerful brand for him. If you told me that I want to show how what it may, some certain sections of public opinion may not be impressed, and Timothy, when we're discussing Donald Trump, I wanted to raise this issue. In fact, I feel like we many times actually don't understand, or we misunderstand the attitude of voters. What Trump disproved is this concept in American politics of electability. That to be electable, you must speak like this, you must conduct yourself like this. We had rules of thumb that governed presidential behavior. Trump came, broke every single rule in that book of electability, and won. Even in his second term, he got the highest number of votes any incumbent presidential candidate had ever gotten.
And he went ahead.
Or any presidential candidate had ever gotten. And in spite of, but also I think because of what we considered outrage.
And he proved to be a good president.
You know, I'm MK spokesman. So when I take time...
the tweets can go viral, does not mean they're attractive.
But then you also look at the quality of debate that they start.
I want to know what people, because we do not have a univocal public. We have a public with so many views. The tweets go viral, and I think they give him visibility, they give him top-of-mind awareness, and they attract a large section of Ugandans whom I think we, the pundits, misunderstand.
No, we don't misunderstand.
Okay, Tim, let's first come to Trump and again come
no, I thought you were asking about Museveni's claiming his votes were stolen. And one thing is that, okay, just very quickly in a few seconds, because you sidetracked us to Muhoozi, just the way NUP itself and People Power struggled to just even get that name registered from People Power to NUP, the difficulty of the rallies. Remember the people in Kalangala arrested, wherever they went, people still in jail. Only recently are some people even being released. The circumstance, the pressure under which they were, there was just no way with that heavy deployment of machinery, including some relatives of some people in the studio here who are part of this armed enforcement of so-called security, some major generals whose names will not mention. Yes. So with that kind of pressure, just how on earth with this NUP that was barely just clinging to the the election exercise by their fingertips, how would they have gone from that state of vulnerability to actually being able to positively rig Museveni over as many as 1 million votes or something? So it's just, so I was going to say, the thing I was going to say on air, which I won't say now, but I will tell you privately, will be that some of us just can't give you our true opinion of Museveni for all sorts of legal, political, and whatnot reasons. But if I could speak it out or whisper right now,
I have given you full.
No, you don't have powers.
Because you diverted us by saying that
Beska's going to tell you Museveni this,
Why do you think I felt right in Moses rather than I'm encouraging him in those tweets?
No, because like I said, Andrew, I know you.
Together,
Yes, Andrew. No, I know that Andrew, the past week, Andrew, you since you become a dishonest human being who keeps on switching sides by the winds and whatnot, I can no longer even trust your views on these things. If there was a military coup today and the Museveni government were out, you'll be one of the first people of the new government speaking.
Maybe I will be the one engineering the coup.
I don't even know.
You expect him to be a spokesperson of NUP?
Andrew has become just like any other, basically gun for hire, so I can't take his view seriously. But
let's take another break. Timothy, you are given the meeting. KFM. Welcome back to this edition of the Hot Seat, featuring a panel of the most experienced journalists and pundits to discuss the major events of the week. I have Rogers Magala, I have Jim Odoki, and Timothy Kariekera. First of all, let me tell you, I don't think that Museveni's accusation is without foundation. I have studied electoral politics in Uganda for a very long time, and I have sufficient data from 1996 to now. And the picture I get is that if you look at the 96 elections, I think total registered voters were about 7.4 million. In 2021, there were 10.7 million. And I think there was a lot of rigging then on both sides. I think that in northern Uganda, Museveni was rigged. In the rest of the country, Besigye was rigged. And I have sufficient evidence, which we have ever written, about how the result Museveni got in 2001 was not reflective. He had a strong rigging margin. But what I can tell you is that the number of polling stations in which there was 100% voter turnout and Museveni got more than 90% of the vote were something like 350. And the number of polling stations, could have been about more than 1,000. But you find the same thing in northern Uganda. Many polling stations where there was more than 90% voter turnout, Besigye getting more than 95% of the vote. I use that as a proxy for rigging. And how does it happen on the polling day? If you go to a polling station where the hostility, the support for one candidate is overwhelming, it becomes possible to
count.
Tick if those who have not shown up. In 2016, in Kasangati, I had a young man who was living with me, and he goes to but he had registered to vote in Kasangati. So he goes to vote. When he reaches at the polling booth, the ballots were delivered late around 11 a.m. But when he got, many people were angry, young, youthful people were angry. They thought Museveni was trying to rig. So most of Museveni supporters, who are largely women and elderly, were intimidated, and they ran away. They could not stay in the queue. When the ballot papers finally arrived, and there was even armed police, for him he stayed because he was male. They voted. After voting, they started counting. They would say, Besigye, 20, 30 times. Then they say Museveni. Then there would be a shot. People would quarrel. Who could have voted for me? So he got so intimidated because he clearly looks a Westerner. He thought he could be identified and beaten. Anyway, towards the end, he also ran away. So, and once he was not there, what would happen? In other words, Museveni supporters could not afford to be there. Even Museveni's polling agent could not stay there. In those circumstances, they can even take. Even if you're a returning officer, you are likely to be in that area a pro-Besigye person, or you may be overwhelmed by the support. So you go along with it. So even in the Museveni areas, there are so many polling stations in that Kato corridor, Nakaseke, Gomba, Changwanzi, Kazo, Rushere, all those areas, there are many polling stations, 100% voter turnout. Museveni was getting 100% of the vote or 99% of the vote. So in those areas, because Museveni support is so overwhelming, you are likely to have rigging. So I believe that rigging is a function of the volume of your support. It's not just a monopoly of the incumbent.
But again, Andrew, there are scenarios where we've seen the president use security apparatus, having the army into a polling station, intimidating people. We've seen areas where people videos being taken, polling agents taken away, whisked away, ballot papers ticked by individuals, ticked by the army. These videos have been everywhere. We've seen people, polling agents, thrown into cells. This is all rigging, but there is nobody in the opposition that does that. I agree with you.
That is not true.
I agree with you that there are areas now where I come from, Chadondo, Namasuba, the polling station where we were, that people get into a frenzy of Bobby Wine, Bobby Wine, Bobby Wine, Bobby Wine. You get,
but so, even with all that, the margin cannot be to the level of 1 million. It can't.
And you can't compare it.
Okay, so the issue is the numbers.
The numbers.
But the fact that
it might exist to a very small extent. Very small.
Let me give you some information, guys. Because you see, I want to approach things from a scholarly perspective, not a person perspective. In 2001, polling stations with 100% voter turnout were in 52 counties. In 2006, they were in 42 counties. In 2011, they fell down to 31 counties. In 2016 to 20. Which also shows me the ability of Museveni to rig has been, I use 100% voter turnout and Museveni getting above 90% as a proxy for rigging. We see that they have fallen from 52 counties so they to 20 counties up to 2016. I don't have 2021. But if you ask who gets most votes in 100% voter turnout, there are 47 polling stations with 100% of the votes where Besigye got 0. 22 polling stations where Museveni got 0. So you see, it's not just one-sided. Now I'll show you polling stations where KB got more than 90% of the vote. In 2001, they were 1,596. In 2006, they were 1,368. In 2011, they were 115. In 2016, they were 236.
But
so you should know that if you do the numbers, you realize that in certain areas in 2006 and 2001, around these concentration camps, which they used to call internally displaced camps in northern Uganda, I mean, to be M7 person was risky. So
it was more of a protest vote.
But also M7's votes there. If you're M7 supporter, you would even just away from the polling station.
And do you remember in areas in Wakiso?
In this last election, the sentiment for Bobi Wine was so strong, M7's voters feared to even go to polling stations. They were not secure. It required extraordinary courage because kids, these young youth who could manhandle you, knew that you are supporter of Museveni and they could chase you.
But Andrew, that is not
in
true.
In 2016, I went with the ambassador of France. They saw me at the polling station in Kawempe there. They came to attack me. I had to call UPDF, which were standing across there. They came and there was a scuffle. Bullets would have gone off. So I asked myself, how would Museveni supporters in Kampala have no capacity to go to polling stations?
But Andrew, I think that is not true because when you look at the voting process in Kampala, for example, it is always peaceful. During the morning moments, it only gets tensed up when it comes to counting. But also, I want you to remember how the vote in Wakiso, Kampala, Mukono, when it was tallied. You get, the ballots came a little bit late. Even when the tallying came, announcing results from Mukono, Kampala district, Wakiso, these results were delayed. You get it? And this all means something. That let these strongholds of Bobi Wine and the opposition come in much later after the minds of the people have been prepared. That you saw what NBS was doing.
That I agree with you.
People
but it is not done because of rigging. It's done
that is all rigging.
Let me explain to you. In 2016, ballot papers around Kampala were delivered late.
Yes.
Besigye believes that because they were delivered late, that's why his performance was bad. Melin and I, and you can ask her, she's now at Stanford University, we got all the polling data from the Electoral Commission and looked for where were ballot papers in Kampala delivered on time at 7, where were they delivered at 11 or at 3 or the next day. And we looked at what was the voter turnout in each one of them. There was no statistical difference in voter turnout based on late delivery of ballot boxes. But what was the consistent number? The consistent number is wherever there was delayed delivery of ballot boxes for voting, where voting started late, either at 9 a.m. or rather at 11 a.m. or 3 p.m. or the next day, Besige's votes went very high, Museveni's votes went very low. And we had to probe our minds what could cause that, because it was clear to us that late delivery of ballot boxes favored Besige, not Museveni. Tactically, strategically, it favored Museveni, and I'll explain to you why. At a tactical level, you see Museveni's voters were largely women and older people. Women had to, and Besige's supporters were largely male, young. Museveni's supporters are those people who could not stand the sunshine or the delays, they went back home. Or women who had to go and attend to the chores at home, cook, do this and the other, or wash. And Besige's supporters were that kind of constituency who could stay in. But also the late delivery created so much anger among Besige's supporters in the city where he was strong. They intimidated Museveni supporters whom they knew, and they ran away. So it favored Besige. Now, tactically, but how did it favor Museveni overall? Because if you're Museveni, you want to control the psychology of the public. If you begin announcing Jikaramoja, Nyabushozi, where Museveni is winning bigly, by the time you come to announce Kampala, the true vote, you have already created a psychological feeling that Museveni's victory is inevitable. It is just to calm the situation. And where did Museveni learn this? 1980 election, which he lied himself that Obote stole it, Obote won. What happened is in 1980, there were 34 electoral seats, parliamentary seats in Buganda. And remember that 1980 elections was determined by parliamentary votes, not by, we don't have a presidential election. Of the 34, DP won 32. 2 from Mubende, actually won 33, UPC won 1 from Mubende. But at that time it was not announced, so they announced all the 33. If you look at the polling results from Mubende, from Mitiana, from Maksaka, from Mpiji, Mukono, a UPC candidate would get 1,500 votes, a DP candidate 33,000. So and because they were near Kampala, as election results were pouring in, showing massive losses by UPC and massive victories of DP, it created a psychology that DP was winning. But a day later, when results started coming from Ugulu, Arua, Lango, wherever, where UPC was, Bushenyi, where UPC was winning, the psychology around Kampala was that we had won. And people had started pouring on the streets and celebrating. So it became difficult for Mwanga to control the situation. That's why he issued a decree saying only him can announce the results. So Museveni knew it in 2016 that he must control the public psychology on the election. So delay the announcement of Bobi Wine areas, begin with his strongholds, then you create a psychology that is winning.
No, that clearly shows.
That is not rigging votes.
No, that is rigging votes. That is rigging votes. How? That is rigging votes because you are an incumbent, you are a candidate, and you are influencing the apparatus of the state. You are influencing the electoral system.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you know that a loser, but who wins a huge majority at the center of gravity, your center of gravity, is your capital city? You know, if you took over Kampala here, government would fall. It would be difficult for you to mobilize troops from the outlying areas to come and take over Kampala. Amin did not overthrow Obote in 1971 because he had the support of the army. He had just 3 battalions around Kampala, Malire, Bombo, and whatever it was. And
the support of the Baganda.
And that was it. The rest of the country was still behind Obote. So Museveni understands the psychology. The most important thing is, if you say stealing votes is I take your vote, but managing the psychology of election results
also
is not stealing. In other words, you are just managing public psychology.
Now, in the same vein, how does NUP steal his vote?
What machinery does?
We'll come back, we answer that question. KF. Welcome back to this last segment of this edition of the Hot Seat, featuring a panel of the most experienced journalists and panelists to discuss the major events of the week. I have Timothy Kariegera, I have Rogers Magala, and Jimmy Odochi. Is it Odoki or Odochi? Odoki. Yes. The Baganda say Odochi. Yes. So, guys, now I want us to conclude on this election.
The NUP accusation by Museveni.
I think that perhaps not 1 million, but and maybe not much ballot stuffing, but the intimidation of Museveni supporters in Buganda, especially, and in Kampala, was significant in reducing Museveni's vote.
So also
it's called voter suppression. That happens a lot in, and of course there is voter suppression in Museveni strongholds of opposition supporters.
An election is not an event, not just that day. It's a process. So you can imagine what the NU people went through before going to that day to vote. They would have been intimidated, they've been thrown military, all this. That's already makes it very unfair. But what Museveni says, 1 billion.
But is it to the disadvantage of the opposition? Because I have this belief, I don't know, it's difficult for us to know cause and effect. I will tell you this. Whenever Museveni unleashes excessive violence against his opponents, voter turnout increases and Museveni's voter margin goes down, the opposition votes goes up. I will give you an example. In 2006, Museveni unleashed incredible violence against Besigye, arrested him, charged him with rape, charged him with terrorism, charged him with treason and everything. Voter turnout increased to 68%, and Besigye's vote share grew from 26 to 36. In 2016, Museveni actually did not employ in 2011, Museveni did not employ violence. He employed bribery. He went, raided the treasury, and used money. Voter turnout fell to 57%, and Museveni's vote share grew from 58 to 68. Messages fell from 36 to 26. That is 2011. In 2016, Museveni went back to his old trick of violence. Voter turnout jumped from 57 back to 68, and Museveni's vote share fell from 68 to 58, and messages from 26 to 36. In 2011, Museveni unleashed a lot of violence against Bobi Wine, and voter turnout grew again back to 68%. Museveni's share fell to 60%. Bobi Wine was 65%. So I get the sense. Now, of course, we have to ask ourselves analytically, does Museveni's use of violence reflect the strength of the opposition, and therefore is this a response to huge momentum in favor of the opposition? Or is Museveni's violence, does it stimulate hostility from the public and people show up to vote for the opposition? I don't know what is cause and what is effect, but what I can say is, as a person who has been at the receiving end of Museveni's violence, Museveni builds you, by the way. If Museveni does not beat you, people think that he has compromised you. So if Museveni does not attack your supporters, the public are not likely. If Museveni has not beaten Bobi Wine, the way Museveni has never beaten this guy, Mugisha Muntu, you can see Mugisha Muntu walks on the street, no one arrests him, follows him. So people think you're not serious. So I am inclined to believe that electoral violence by Museveni may give Museveni a sense of psychological security because he's a specialist in violence. He feels psychologically safe when he's brutalizing his opponents, but it is not objectively in his favor in the sense that actually it turns people against him.
I think, Andrew, it's two-way. How? That whenever the violence is extreme, fine, people get angry and go vote for the opposition, invite for change. But equally the same, many more people are locked in their homes fearing of the outcome.
Okay, so the question becomes, why is it that when there has been violence, voter turnout has increased, and when there has been peace, voter turnout has gone down?
There has never been peace, Andrew. Let us look.
In 2011, even Timothy Kaligera, who is the greatest critic of Museveni, will admit, we never had violence, electoral violence in 2011.
We actually did, but
you see, very, very little.
You see,
it's the one election where Besigye was not blocked, beaten, terrorized. It's one election also that was so boring because there was no violence. There was nothing for us as journalists to cover in 2011. I traveled across this country. So voter turnout fell to 57%, I'm telling you. And Museveni got a higher share of low voter turnout. So I am very suspicious of the value of electoral violence to Museveni. I feel it works for him as an individual who enjoys violence. It gives him psychological security, but I don't think it gives him more votes or that it suppresses voter turnout.
But Andrew, I haven't spoken this, but it's just that, okay, we've become so used to the abnormal that now even that itself just goes by. Just get back all your words and just think through. Imagine yourself in a country like Finland or New Zealand. Just picture what you're talking about. As a matter of course, whenever Museveni unleashes violence, that year was a good election because there was no violence. In other words, you're talking thuggery. That man, that friend of yours should be at the ICC.
But this is not Finland.
Yes, no. I agree with you, but I'm saying, but even that bit, in other words, the very fact that you're talking basically what is really criminality by the head of state and his system means that then that same criminal system has this bottom line: we will not allow anyone else.
Tim, let me ask you: assuming we were to get Finland, when it had the same per capita income as Uganda,
now you're starting your spin. I know.
What you may be advocating, Timothy, is Finland, an industrial advanced society, cannot behave like a peasant society.
But you also remember the day, I think, of Trump's inauguration. You remember the violence in Washington, D.C., they're bringing the National Guard and all that.
So it was an exception to the rule.
No, yes, but
here, the saga I'm talking about is the rule.
Every time you start your spin, I always bring in your favorite country.
Spin.
No, okay, Andrew, now, the reason I'm saying this, every time you start that spin of yours, I always bring in your favorite country, Rwanda. In other words, everything, Rwanda is more peasant, more rural, more everything than Uganda. So how come things, in other words, your general principle of argument,
again, I would
which
argue,
I call
by the way,
spin.
and I write this every day. Timothy, you don't need to make slights at me.
I'm saying.
To have this person. You have been bribed.
I'm saying.
I think that we should have an argument on the basis of his intellect, the power of his intellect.
Yes,
my subjective motivations, let me say somebody has paid me, is, I think, irrelevant to assuming I'm a lawyer. Can you argue in a court that, no, it is because you were paid a lot of money, that's why I argue a good case? Because the judge must listen to the two arguments, regardless of how much has been paid to a lawyer, is irrelevant to the substance of the case.
Yes.
In this case, let me come to this about Rwanda. I honestly argue every day. I think that Rwanda is an exception that proves the rule. That in a poor country, there are many things that can't work. Rwanda is exception, and I admire it because it's really an exception. And I think that it has set Kagame and Rwanda apart from the rest of the experience we have. But when you compare Uganda's politics with Sweden or Norway, highly advanced industrial societies, the poorest person even has an apartment with a television, a refrigerator, a cooker, a heater. I mean, and here you have people living a minimum existence. You have only 2% of Ugandans who have flush toilets in their houses, and then you say the two countries would have the same problem.
But no, the reason I say this is because, well, even if we go away from what you call the personal things, but we can go to your Malawis. Kenya, you might say, is somewhat different in terms of general economy, but let's go to Malawi. The Supreme Court, Malawi, clearly you've been there. And
so has Malawi had the same history of Uganda? Oh, for that, but the balance of political and military forces.
No. What I'm trying to say. No, I'm saying, remember when Malawi's Supreme Court overturned the election results, and this is in other words, I'm trying to explain that there are many other countries in Africa, poor countries. Zambia is, Zambia very well. Uganda in the southern is economically stronger than Zambia, but you see Zambia has
Zambia much stronger. Zambia has a higher per capita income than Kenya even.
Yes, what I'm trying to explain is
Zambia is a more urbanized country. 65% of the Zambian population is urbanized. Only in Uganda it's only 30%.
Yes, the reason I'm saying that.
The point I'm saying, Timothy, is okay. Even if we say there are poor countries like Benin, Zambia, Gambia,
where
that elections can be peaceful, it is that the balance of both political and military power is even. The military do not get involved. Here, the military is a creation of Museveni, is an arm of the NRM. You get it? Yes. So we cannot desire to be Zambia because we're not Zambia. But if you go to Zambia, to State House, there is even no metal detectors. Here, even a small hotel has a metal detector.
So what would be
because of that reason, now going back to the original argument, means this, the point Jimmy stated but did not develop, that the general atmosphere in Uganda under Yoweri Museveni is that, and he says it openly, he doesn't need spokesmen, we shall finish you, we shall do ABC to you. That general atmosphere alone means to the Electoral Commission, to the judges, you've argued many times about the decision that the late Justice Malengas and the other group came to, of the 2006, you could see Timothy,
I have to cut you off, we have run out of time. We will continue, me and Timothy, on this show next week on Sunday. I think I'll be in the country on Friday. No, I'm not in the country. But when I come back, me and Tim will have this discussion.